And that gives us a wonderful opportunity, doesn't it, to finish with "As with Gladness," so we get in our full repertoire of hymns this morning. Can I offer you all my very warm welcome and Happy New Year to you all. It's great to see you. Now, who has made a New Year's resolution? Okay, Diana has. Has anybody broken their New Year's resolution? Oh, Diana, good. I'm glad I'm not the only one. It's a season, isn't it, of new beginnings at the start of a new year. And that season of new beginnings and beginning new things is not something that is necessarily restricted just to us as individuals. It's something that we can look at corporately as a community too. And I want to think a little bit about this morning some of the new things that I believe that God is wanting to do in and through us in this special year for St. John Meads. You may or may not be aware that 2017 is our Jubilee year. It is our Diamond Jubilee. It is 60 years since this building was consecrated as a place of worship and as a centre of mission by the then Bishop of Chichester. And we'll be speaking more about that Jubilee and marking that as we go on through the year. And I'm really excited about this year of Jubilee and all that it holds for us for a number of reasons. If you were here in the Jubilee Hall yesterday, you will have heard more about the plans to reorder our worship space during the course of this year. If you have been around over recent months, you will have heard too about our plans to relaunch Scouting. It is 50 years exactly. 1967 was the year that Scouting closed its doors here at St. John's, and in 2017, under the leadership of Ollie Margery, we will be launching again the Scouting movement here at St. John's. I can see lots of enthusiastic nods about that. It's one of the ways in which, as a church community, we are seeking to offer hospitality to those on the fringe of our circle of operation, and we're seeking to bridge the gap by building relationships with further families within our community. It's an exciting time. This year, too, is a year where we will be building on the foundations that were laid in 2016 in the formation of Linking Lives as the charity that will be responding to those who are lonely and isolated in our community. And in 2016, we launched the charity. Bishop Richard, Bishop of Lewis, became our patron. And in 2017, we will see the first of our team of befrienders going out into the community, visiting and touching the lives of those who are most lonely, most isolated. It's a really exciting year for us, isn't it? As we seek to respond to that call to reach out to every part of our community. But it's more than just Linking Lives and Scouting. We will be launching this year under the leadership of Sarah, Open the Book. And we have a team of 20 volunteers that will be going into our school. We had Andy Best, our head of school, here earlier today, speaking about how excited he is that we will be having Open the Book, dramatised Bible stories being told to our children. And how that fits in with our verse of the year about how one generation can tell another about the good things that God has done and is doing. It's really exciting to see what God is already doing as we turn the corner into the year. But I'm most excited over all of these things about the potential that our new series brings to us. As you will probably know, and if you don't, you'll be hearing a lot about it, we are in the Year of the Bible for the Diocese of Chichester, and our part in that is to develop a series known as the Big Bible Story, the Mission of God. And we're going to be going on a journey of exploration into this incredible book this year. A journey of exploring the mission that God has in the world, and most importantly, your part and my part in that mission. Now, I think it's probably fair to say it's our most ambitious teaching series we've ever embarked on here. And so we're going to have various resources to help us on that journey. You will have access to a printed copy of the study notes that go with each sermon, Sunday by Sunday. If you have access to a computer, you can access them online through our St. John's Church site. You will also have been given, as you came in, a leaflet about the Year of the Bible. If you'd like to turn to that now, we'll be referring to that occasionally during the course of the morning. Have you been given them? Okay, well, we'll make sure you've got them as you go out. One or two of you have. And this will be our map, our guide through this year. Now, like any map, it doesn't give us all of the detail. Maps tell you what you need to know. If you take that incredible, iconic underground map by Harry Beck, you all know it. If you use that above ground in London, are you going to get very far? You're not. It's not very helpful above ground, but below ground, it helps you navigate around a vast city, a complex city. And this map is not designed to be complex. It's designed to give us the features and the landmarks that we need in order to navigate our way through this book and to see the God of mission at work within it, and our part working with the God who calls us to share mission with him. As we've heard in that wonderful letter of Paul's, we are co-workers with Christ. And we're going to be discovering more about that. Now, it's probably important to say what this isn't. This isn't another series that is designed to give us more facts. At the last service, there was a big sigh of relief when I said that. We don't need more facts. What we need is to understand more about the purposes of God and how he calls you and I, as ordinary people, into his mission to participate with him. And that's the journey that we're going to be going on. And that is why, to launch this series, I've chosen this parable of Jesus. It links in with two other parables that he tells in earshot of the Pharisees and the teachers of the law. And he tells them about three lost things: the lost sheep, the lost coin, and the lost son. And we'll come back to why he tells them to that audience in a moment. But the important point at this stage is to say Jesus tells this story because he wants to convey to his hearers that God is the God who searches for the lost. God is the God who initiates the search. It's interesting, isn't it, how people talk about how they found God. But actually, the truth is that God finds us. He goes out and searches for us. And we see that in this amazing parable that Jesus tells. But we also see, this is one of the reasons why I've also chosen it, how in one story, Jesus gives us a cameo, a microcosm, if you like, of the big Bible story, the mission of God that we're going to be exploring together this year. Let me just give you some of the highlights of that story. Jesus introduces us to a father who is generous to the extreme. He shares everything with his children, even though the time is not right. They come to him, they ask him to share with them. Him, the younger son in particular, but the older son gets his share too. And we are dealing with a God who is abundantly generous, who calls us to share with him. And as we go into this series, in the early stages, we will see the God who calls his first created people to be part of creation, to name creation, to care for creation, to steward creation. And one of the reasons I'm excited about this series is it will help us to understand mission, not simply in terms of our own journey of salvation, our own journey of being lost and found by a loving Father, but it'll also expand our vision so that we can understand that mission isn't just about what we do over there, sending people to the other side of the world. It's not simply about putting on events that we can invite our friends to so they can hear about Jesus. Mission is about all that we are and all that we do as followers of Jesus. And it extends not just to our salvation, although that is our starting place, but it extends to our care of the world that God has given us. How we steward our resources, our financial resources, our other resources. How we use those to make sure that we are part of pushing back the tide of economic injustice and social injustice. It extends to how we use all of our lives and all of our resources. Are you excited? Some of you are. One or two of you are. We've got another 5 minutes to go, so, I've got some room here. It's about extending our vision of what mission is and crucially our part within it. Now, here's a question for you. When you look at these three parables, we only had time to hear one this morning, but the parable of the lost sheep, the parable of the lost coin, and the parable of the lost son, what do you think differentiates the third from the first two? Somebody at 9:30 got it, no pressure. Any thoughts? Why don't you turn to the person next to you, if you're relatively close, and share it with them? Sorry? The older son. Okay, he's a differentiator. He fits into the answer, Derek. You see, in the first two stories, we have lost things, a sheep and a coin. Do we have a searcher? We do. We have the shepherd who goes out, a picture of God as shepherd. In the second, we have the widow searching for that coin, a searcher. And again, we have the implication is that it's God who does the searching. But in the third parable, who does the searching? The son returns on his own, doesn't he? And that's intentional. And I've struggled with that for many years. It's only in the last week or so that I've understood what Jesus is wanting to say. Because he's addressing the Pharisees and the teachers of the law. And to them, they will understand that they are the elder brothers. And you see, in this story, it is the elder brother that should go out and bring back the lost son. And we can link this to the bigger Bible story, because right at the beginning of this story we're going to be exploring, we have two brothers, Cain and Abel. Do you remember them? And God tells the resentful and proud older brother, you are your brother's keeper. You are your brother's keeper. He's your responsibility. And yet what do we see in this parable? We see an elder brother who turns his back on that responsibility. He can't even bring himself to be associated with his younger brother. This son of yours, he calls him, he is your responsibility. He's not my responsibility. And friends, the key to this series is to understand that we have a responsibility. We can't leave it to others. God is calling us to be part of the mission. We're part of the rescue plan. And that is hugely exciting. It's what Paul says. You and I are co-workers. We're not we're not idle sitters by in this. We are included in the mission of God. Now, that doesn't resolve the tension in the parable. But we do have a true elder brother. Jesus is the one who goes and rescues and seeks and searches and saves the lost. And the irony is, in this parable, it's the Pharisees and the teachers of the law, the ones who should know better, who criticize Jesus because he goes to the sinners and the tax collectors. Do you see the irony? And friends, this series is designed in part to remind us that we're not called to have that spirit of the elder brother that says that the loss to someone else's responsibility, whether that's lost in their wild living or lost in their pride. You and I need to follow the example of Jesus, who came and searched for you, and he came and searched for me, and he brought us back into a relationship with a loving Father who embraces us and welcomes us and throws a party for us, which is analogous of the party in heaven that will be happening at the end of this story that we're going to be going through. Now, I've been racking my brains to try and give us a picture to hold on to as we go into the week, because words are great, but pictures, we hold on to pictures. And the Lord, I think, gave me a picture a few weeks ago when I was at the back of church. It was 9:30, after 9:30 service, and I had an unusual moment where I wasn't actually talking to someone. And in those few moments, I was able to watch the children enjoying themselves after a great morning in their Sunday worship. They were having great fun. They were out the front and they were coming in and they were playing tag. My son included, of course, usually at the forefront of things like that, with Ben and George and Keris and others. They were having a wonderful time. Now, it's a very, very long time since I played tag. I wouldn't be very good. I'm not very fast anymore, and I probably wouldn't catch anybody. I might catch one or two of you, but that's debatable in itself. But we're not going to play tag today. I know some of you are going to be disappointed in that. But if you cast your mind back to when you played tag, I seem to remember there were two ways that you could play it. There was the way that if you're it, you are the one who runs around and you tag people. And when you tag them, they go and sit on a bench, or they go and play out of the game until the game is finished, and then the game can start all over again. That's one way of playing tag. There's another way that I remember too, which is when you go out and you're it, you tag others, and those others become part of your tag team. And they go out with you to tag other people, and of course exponentially that works its magic, and more people get tagged, and you can start a new game. And friends, that is analogous of this big Bible series that we're going to be looking at today. There are two ways of looking at what God does in the world. We can understand our faith as something that is private and personal to us. We receive something from God through his son Jesus and all he's done on the cross for us, and we can go and sit on the salvation bench and watch while other things go on around us. It's not our responsibility, it's someone else's. Or we can play a different form of tag, where when we are included, when God rescues us, when God brings us into that place of deep relationship and love with him as our Father, we can understand that that's about playing our part in the mission of God. Whether that's being part of Open the Book or linking lives, or the many different ways in which we can touch other people's lives with the love of Christ that God has touched our lives with. We get to play a part. We are co-workers, as Paul says, with Christ. And our series is going to be exploring how you and I get to play our part in the mission of God. And I hope and pray that you are as excited as I am about all that will mean for us, both individually, but when we catch a vision for how God wants to use us, it transforms us. It transforms our community, and it transforms the world. Amen.